So I get home late, and I got to do a little show prep, and I find in the Times of Israel a story on Anthony Blinken lecturing Israel about what they must and must not do in Gaza, how Israel's job number one in Gaza is protecting civilians. And then I read that Jake Sullivan has gone out and tried to walk back the president's comments because it's incoherent. They are losing the voters who support Israel. They're losing not only American Jews, but they are losing every American who supports Israel, and that includes me. They are the worst administration vis-a-vis Israel since Dwight Eisenhower. And I know that there are people, very smart people, like John Podhoretz, maybe, I know, the equal of any commentator out there, says he doesn't care. Biden can jaw all he wants, provided he keeps sending the weapons. But this is different. They're leaning on Israel. They're leaning on our ally. It is dangerous to be an ally of Joe Biden. It's great to be his enemy. He'll send you billions of dollars, W noted last night, billions of dollars in sanctions relief. The one policy that both W and Trump 100% agreed on is cut Iran's money off. They're the source of evil across the world. And those two guys are right, and Joe Biden is wrong, and Robert Gates is right that Joe Biden has always been wrong. But I remind you, this is what President Biden said on Saturday to Jonathan Capehart, cut number 28.
What is your red line with Prime Minister Netanyahu? Do you have a red line? For instance, would invasion of Rafah, which you have urged him not to do, would that be a red line?
It is a red line, but I'm never going to leave Israel. The defense of Israel is still critical. So there's no red line. I'm going to cut off all weapons so they don't have the Iron Dome to protect them. They don't have. But there's red lines that if he crosses, and he cannot have 30,000 more Palestinians dead as a consequence.
All right, so he said, I want you to hear, he said, there is a red line, and they can't go into Rafah. He said it. They've been leaning on Israel via anonymous leaks until yesterday. Then they realized, oh, man, this is not going well. People in America really like Israel, and they don't forget 10/7. So they sent Jake Sullivan, the national security advisor, out to try and clean up the damage yesterday. Cut number 26.
When it comes to the issue of the hostage talks, one of the things that I have found somewhat absent from the coverage is that what we are talking about in the first phase is women, elderly, and wounded civilians. Those who would like to see a ceasefire in Gaza, a ceasefire is on the table today for 6 weeks to be built on into something more enduring if Hamas would simply release women, wounded, and elderly. And the fact that they will not do so says a lot to me about Hamas's regard for innocent Palestinian civilians. The fact that they are holding on to those folks and refusing to release them and refusing to step up and say that we could get this ceasefire in place, which not only would bring calm to the fighting, but also would create an enormous opportunity to flow humanitarian assistance in much greater quantities, because a significant part of the problem on the humanitarian assistance front, as you know, has not just been getting trucks into Gaza, but getting trucks around Gaza because it is difficult to move them in light of all of the fighting. Now, we've also encouraged Israel to stay at the table, stay engaged, because we believe that there still is scope for this deal to get done.
Stay at the table, stay engaged, even though they're trying to kill you and they won't let your people go. And by the way, there's a red line. But he goes on to talk about how the media is just getting this all wrong. I'm reading now from the Times of Israel this morning, Jake Sullivan's summary of what he said. Jake Sullivan went on to reject the notion that the U.S. President Joe Biden had characterized an Israeli military operation in Rafah as a red line and pouring cold water on speculation that Washington is considering withholding security aid if the IDF moves into southern Gaza. That's all that has been leaked from the White House for 5 days. And now they figured out it's a political nightmare, and they're trying to back it up. They're trying to stop it. And here's Anthony Blinken, cut number 25, on Andrea Mitchell yesterday. Again, the safe place for Biden, Team Biden, is on MSNBC. They talked to less than 1% of America. And at noon on MSNBC, they're talking about 1/10 of 1% of America. Cut number 25.
What we've seen in terms of food, as well as other supplies, going to the second part of your question, is, of course, the Israelis have been not only allowing food in, they have been working to make sure that it gets in and gets to people who need it. We've seen throughout this process, first the opening of Rafah back in October, after my first visit to Israel, many hours of discussion.
Oh, it's his visit. His visit. Get it? Tony Blinken went to Israel and they opened up a crossing. This will not fly, and you need to call the White House. You need to call the White House. 202. I can't remember the White House number offhand. What is it, Dwayne? We'll find it for you. You need to call them and tell them to start supporting Israel and stop pounding on Israel. Israel is the victim here. Israel needs to go into Rafah. We need to give them the weapons. We need to shut up and stand by and support our longtime ally that was so savagely attacked by a terrorist organization that they now have cornered. We have to let Israel finish the job.